All right, so get this. Today we are diving deep into something pretty wild. We're talking AI, but not just any AI. We're talking about using AI to actually help students pick a college major.
Whoa.
Yeah, right. And we've got some really fascinating research straight out of UC Berkeley. Like this stuff is making me rethink everything I thought I knew about like academic
I
advising.
mean, it's a big decision, right?
Mm,
Like choosing a major, it has implications for your future, for
yeah.
sure. Your career, how much money you might make, even how happy you are,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And what's really interesting about this research is that it's not about getting rid of human advisors. It's about saying, hey, what if we could make advisors even better with this new tool, AI?
So how did they like even test this? Did they like unleash GPT-4 on a stack of college applications and just see what happened?
Not quite. It's actually pretty clever study design. They had a whole bunch of freshmen and sophomores, all undeclared, and they had them answer a bunch of questions,
Hmm.
like what they're interested in, what their goals are, the kind of stuff you talk about with an advisor.
Right, right.
And then get this. They took those answers, those student responses, and they gave them to both human advisors and to GPT-4. And then they said, okay, both of you recommend a major for each of these students.
Oh, wow. So like human advisor versus AI, both trying to be college matchmakers.
Exactly. It's a head-to-head.
Who won?
All right, so brace yourself for this.
Yeah.
The advisors, they actually liked the AI's recommendations. Like,
Mhm.
they agreed with GPT-4's suggestions a full 33% of the time.
Seriously, I gotta say, when I first heard about this whole thing, I was like, come on, how can an AI possibly get this? But 33%, that's not just a fluke, right?
No, right.
It's like the AI is actually processing all this info, coming up with its own,
Right.
reasoned suggestions. That's
It
crazy.
really is. And here's the other thing. Even when the AI and the advisors disagreed, they often recommended similar majors, you know? Like they were in the same subject area or in the same academic division.
Mm.
It's almost like the AI was picking up on those deeper patterns and those underlying interests, even if it didn't land on the exact same recommendation as the human expert.
That's wild. I'm curious, did they like ever give the AI more info, like demographics? I feel like that could really sway things one way or another.
They did. They actually looked at whether throwing in things like, race and gender would change the AI's suggestions.
Yeah.
Turns out it did change some individual recommendations, like for specific students.
Okay.
But overall, it didn't make the AI agree with the advisors, more or less.
So knowing a student's background doesn't magically make the AI a better major matchmaker.
Right.
But here's what I found like really trippy. They also looked at whether seeing the AI suggestions actually changed how the human advisors gave their
Oh,
advice.
yeah. That's a really interesting part of the study.
Yeah.
They took the advisors and they divided them into two groups. So one group, they got to see what GPT-4 recommended before they gave their own advice. And then the other group, they saw it afterward.
Okay, so did it make a difference? Like, did seeing what the AI thought change the human's advice?
You know what? It did. The advisors who saw the AI's recommendations first, they actually ended up agreeing with it slightly more often.
Whoa, wait a minute. So the AI is actually influencing the experts. That's kind of amazing and
Yeah.
maybe a little freaky.
It definitely makes you think. Now, to be fair, we should mention this difference. It wasn't what we call statistically significant,
Right.
which means it could have just been chance, random luck.
Gotcha.
But it still raises some super interesting questions like, are the advisors, even unconsciously, incorporating the AI's logic?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they getting like new insights from seeing a totally different perspective?
That's what I find so cool about this research. It's not just about, can AI replace humans?
Yeah.
It's about can AI and humans actually work together to make better decisions?
Totally. And to get a sense of how that collaboration actually felt, the researchers, they went and asked the advisors for their feedback on the whole experience. Like, what was it like working with an AI?
So what did they think? Were they like totally freaked out about robots taking their jobs?
You know what? A lot of the feedback was actually positive. Some advisors even said that the AI's answers to student questions were sometimes more thorough than their own.
No way. So maybe the AI isn't just some scary competitor.
Right.
It could actually help advisors be even better at what they do.
That's what some advisors were suggesting.
That's really interesting.
Especially for those like really big open-ended questions that students often have,
Hmm.
the AI could provide a really solid foundation of information. But of course, there are also some important caveats.
Oh, I bet. What were some of the things the AI struggled with?
Yeah, some advisors felt like, While the AI was amazing with like the big picture stuff, it's sometimes missed those kind of like those smaller details,
Yeah.
especially when it came to like job prospects within different majors.
Right, right. Like an AI can, it can crunch numbers and analyze trends and all that,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have that real world experience to say, hey, look, yeah, a history degree might not, make you a millionaire,
Right.
but if that's what you're passionate about, there are ways to like make it work.
Exactly. That's where like the human experience, the human wisdom is still so important. And a lot of the advisors pointed out that good advising, it's not just a one-time thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not just like you go in, you get your recommendation, and that's it. It's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
Students change, their interests evolve, and they need someone to like help them navigate those changes.
So it's like the AI can provide that initial spark, right?
Yeah.
Those data-driven suggestions.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the human advisor can be there to like fan those flames, help the student explore different paths, and ultimately make a choice that really feels right for them.
I love that analogy. That's perfect. And, this research was done at UC Berkeley.
Right.
Huge school, massive selection of majors.
Yeah.
So imagine the impact this could have at, like, smaller schools, right?
Yeah.
Where advisors might not have that expertise in every single field.
Oh, totally.
AI could really level the playing field, give students at any school, big or small, access to so much information.
And what about students who, like, for whatever reason, don't have easy access to advisors in the first place?
Yeah.
Like maybe they're first generation college students,
Right.
or they're juggling jobs and family and they just don't have time to like meet with an advisor constantly.
Mm-hmm.
AI could be that starting point for them, a way to explore their options without feeling completely lost.
It's such a crucial point. AI could make advising more accessible, more equitable, and honestly, that's something we should all be excited about.
Totally. But of course, like no study is perfect, or
Yeah.
this one definitely had its limitations.
Yeah, for sure.
So what were some of the like caveats that the researchers themselves brought up? Did they think this whole AI thing was like ready to go, or did they have some reservations?
Well, one thing they pointed out was that, they only looked at undeclared students
Okay.
at a four-year university.
Yeah.
They didn't look at, like, transfer students, for example,
Oh, interesting.
from community colleges.
Mm.
Their choices might be influenced by, like, which school they want to transfer to.
That's a great point. Transfer students have a whole other layer of stuff to think about. And honestly, they often need the most support from advisors.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the transfer process can be a nightmare.
It can be.
And the researchers also acknowledge that, using advisor recommendations as like the gold standard
Mm-hmm.
for judging the AI, it's not necessarily perfect. Like what really matters is whether a student feels good about their choice of major, right?
Exactly.
Regardless of what an advisor or an AI says.
It's about the students' passions, their skills, their goals.
Yeah. Not just, checking boxes on some checklist.
Right, right.
But even with these limitations, I think this research opens up so many possibilities. It's not just about picking a major. It's about how AI can totally change how we think about education.
I totally agree. And it's so important that we keep studying this, right?
Yeah.
Like, how can we use AI ethically and responsibly in education?
Yeah.
We need to make sure it's actually helping students, empowering them to make informed decisions.
And that brings me to something I've been thinking about. The researchers, they mostly focused on using AI to help students choose a major,
Right.
which is like obviously huge.
Huge.
But what about like the rest of their college journey?
Yeah.
Could AI also help students adapt and refine their choices along the way? What if it could help them figure out, when to switch majors?
Right.
Or even like combine different areas of study to create a totally unique path?
That's such an interesting question. Imagine a world where AI could help students.
Like imagine if the AI could say, hey, is this really working for you? Or do you like need to totally switch gears? Or even better, hey, you're amazing at math and you love art history. Have you ever thought about architectural design?
Right. It's like college isn't just about, picking one path and then just sticking to it no matter what.
Right.
It's about exploring, discovering new things you're passionate about and, yeah, sometimes even like changing your mind completely.
Right.
And AI could be like this tool that helps students actually make the most of that whole journey.
Totally. So instead of feeling lost, they could actually have like personalized recommendations that are based on their strengths, their weaknesses, their interests, their goals. Like it'd be like having a super advisor who's available all the time.
Yeah. Like it could analyze their grades, feedback from their courses, even their extracurriculars,
Wow.
to suggest areas they might do really well in or even areas where they might need some extra help. It could even connect them with like mentors or research opportunities, internships that actually match what they're into.
So we're talking about a completely different level of personalized education,
Yeah.
one that actually adapts to each student.
Yeah.
Not just like one size fits all lectures and textbooks.
Right.
Every student would have a learning experience that's actually designed to help them like truly succeed.
And that's just the beginning, right? Like as AI keeps getting more advanced, the possibilities for this kind of personalized learning and advising are like endless.
Totally. But of course, like with any powerful tech, we got to approach all this with like a healthy dose of both excitement and caution.
For sure.
It's easy to get swept up in like the wow factor of AI, but we have to remember it's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways. We got to
Right.
be really careful about how we bring AI into education, making sure it's actually empowering students, giving them more choices, not limiting them or controlling their decisions.
Yeah, well said. At the end of the day, it should be about making education better, not about replacing the things that make learning so meaningful in the first place.
Totally. Because it's about, connecting with people. It's about having mentors who inspire you, classmates who challenge you, and just that feeling of like discovering something new. AI can be a part of that, but it can't be the whole story.
Absolutely. So to our listener, as you're thinking about all this, the research, the potential of AI in education, we'd like to leave you with a question to, like, really ponder. If AI could help you design your perfect college experience, what would that even look like? What would you study? What skills would you learn? And what kind of impact would you want to make on the world? The future of education is, like, literally in your hands, and AI might be the key to unlocking your full potential.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into AI augmented advising. It's been a wild ride.
It has.
We hope you learned something new and maybe even have some new questions to think about. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.